Marcus Reed never expected his life to change because of a cleaning service advertisement. But there he was, staring at his ceiling at 3 a.m., acutely aware of the soft humming coming from his kitchen. The sound wasn't mechanical. It was melodic, almost like a lullaby in an alien tongue. He'd hired Naira through Stellar Domestic Services just 2 weeks ago, impressed by their promise of out-of-this-world housekeeping. He hadn't realized they meant it literally until she showed up at his door, her opalescent skin shifting colors in the morning light, and her silver hair floating as if suspended in water. The agency had warned him about cultural differences, but nothing could have prepared him for finding his new housekeeper levitating while reorganizing his kitchen cabinets at 3 in the morning. Marcus watched from the doorway, mesmerized by how her feet hovered several inches above the ground as she effortlessly arranged his dishes into perfect geometric patterns. "Miss Naira," he called out softly, trying not to startle her. She turned, her luminescent eyes widening slightly as they met his. The dishes she'd been telekinetically arranging stayed suspended in midair. "Mr. Reed," she responded, her voice carrying an ethereal echo. "I apologize for the disturbance. On Velara, we perform our duties during the third phase of rest, when energy frequencies are optimal for domestic harmony." Marcus rubbed his eyes, wondering if he was dreaming. "On Earth, we usually do our chores during daylight hours, and typically on the ground." Her hair rippled like liquid silver as she tilted her head. "How inefficient. The gravitational tether limits your range of motion significantly." She gestured elegantly, and the floating dishes settled into their new positions with perfect precision. "That's one way to look at it," Marcus replied, finding himself oddly charmed by her practical approach to defying physics. "But maybe we could compromise. Regular hours, but you can float all you want." Naira's skin shifted to a soft rose hue. What Marcus would later learn was the Velaran equivalent of a blush. "Your flexibility is appreciated, Mr. Reed. Most employers are less understanding of interstellar cultural variations." As she descended gracefully to the floor, Marcus noticed the strange symbols that seemed to dance across her skin, glowing faintly in the darkness. The agency had mentioned something about unique identification markers, but these looked more like living constellations than simple ID tags. "Those markings," he found himself asking, "they're not just for show, are they?" Naira's expression shifted subtly, a flicker of something deeper than mere housekeeping concerns crossing her features. "They are part of who I am," she answered carefully. "Every Velaran bears the story of their purpose in their skin." Marcus stepped closer, intrigued by the way the symbols seemed to respond to his proximity, shifting and realigning themselves. "And what story do yours tell?" For a moment, Naira's composure wavered, her typically serene expression giving way to something more complex. "Perhaps that is a discussion for another time, Mr. Reed, when we have established a more appropriate level of trust." The way she said it made Marcus wonder just what kind of housekeeper needed to establish trust before sharing personal information. But there was something in her manner, a subtle tension beneath the graceful exterior, that suggested pushing for answers wouldn't be wise. "Fair enough," he conceded, then gestured to his now perfectly organized kitchen. "Though I have to say, your work is already earning my trust. I've never seen this place so orderly." Her smile returned, but Marcus noticed it didn't quite reach her luminescent eyes. "Organization is merely the physical manifestation of harmony, Mr. Reed. True order extends far beyond what we can see." As Marcus returned to bed that night, he couldn't shake the feeling that he'd hired much more than a housekeeper. The way Naira moved, spoke, and even the careful measure of her words suggested someone used to operating in much higher circles than domestic service. He drifted off to sleep wondering what circumstances would lead someone like her to take a job cleaning houses on Earth, while in his kitchen, Naira's markings pulsed with messages in a language no human was meant to understand, reporting to somewhere far beyond the stars. The following weeks brought a series of increasingly peculiar cultural exchanges between Marcus and his otherworldly housekeeper. He'd grown accustomed to finding his furniture rearranged according to what Naira called celestial harmonics, and barely blinked when she purified his tap water by singing to it in frequencies that made his windows vibrate. It was the morning he found her in his study, apparently reading every book simultaneously by projecting multiple versions of her consciousness, that finally prompted him to suggest they have a proper conversation about boundaries. On Velara, Naira explained, her multiple projections merging back into a single form, knowledge is consumed collectively. The concept of reading sequentially seems needlessly time-consuming. Her skin rippled with patterns that seemed to reflect the information she'd just absorbed. Marcus leaned against his desk, trying to ignore how the wood grain seemed to respond to Naira's proximity, swirling in impossible patterns. While I appreciate your enthusiasm for Earth literature, maybe we should discuss what else is different between our worlds. You know, before I walk in on you turning my living room into a quantum physics experiment. A melodic sound that might have been laughter escaped her. Too late, Mr. Reed. Though I did return all the particles to their original dimension. Mostly. She paused, noticing his expression. That was an attempt at human humor. Your apartment's quantum structure remains intact. But Marcus had stopped listening, distracted by the way her markings had begun pulsing urgently. Through the window behind her, he caught a glimpse of something that definitely wasn't a bird, its metallic surface reflecting the morning sun before vanishing into the clouds. Naira, he said carefully, are you in some kind of trouble? The temperature in the room dropped several degrees as her skin shifted to a deep indigo. What makes you ask that question, Mr. Reed? Well, for one, your markings are doing that emergency broadcast thing they do when you're nervous. And two, I'm pretty sure that was a surveillance drone outside my window. Not exactly standard issue for housekeeping services. Naira's composed facade cracked slightly, revealing a flash of genuine concern. You are more observant than most humans, Mr. Reed. Most are too caught up in their daily routines to notice such details. I notice a lot of things, he replied, like how you handle my phone calls with the diplomatic precision of someone who's negotiated interstellar treaties, or how your cleaning supplies sometimes emit quantum signatures strong enough to make my smartwatch malfunction. She moved closer, her movement more liquid than human. And yet you've never reported these irregularities to the agency. Why is that? Marcus met her luminescent gaze steadily. Maybe because I'm curious why someone with your obvious capabilities chose to hide on Earth as a housekeeper. Either you're running from something, or you're here looking for something. Neither scenario suggests I should make your life more complicated by asking too many questions. Naira's markings pulsed with what might have been approval, curiosity and discretion. An intriguing combination. She gestured, and the air between them shimmered with holographic symbols. Perhaps it's time I explained why I selected your residence specifically, Mr. Reed. Selected? Marcus raised an eyebrow. I thought the agency assigned you. The agency, like many things in your world, is not quite what it appears to be. Naira's fingers danced through the floating symbols, rearranging them into patterns that made Marcus's head hurt if he looked at them too directly. Your grandfather's work on quantum entanglement theory, it didn't go unnoticed by those beyond your solar system. Marcus stiffened. His grandfather's research had been classified, buried under so many layers of government secrecy that even he only knew fragments of it. How do you know about that? Because, Naira said softly, her markings now glowing with an intensity that cast shadows on the walls. The equations he never published. They're written in my skin. And they might be the key to preventing an interstellar war. Before Marcus could process this revelation, his entire apartment trembled as a shadow fell over the window. This time, what hung in the air outside was no drone. The sleek, dark shape of what could only be an alien vessel hovered silently, its surface rippling like liquid metal. Mr. Reed, Naira said, her formal tone at odds with the urgency in her movements as she began rapidly manipulating the energy fields around them. I believe now would be an excellent time to discuss a significant adjustment to our employer-employee relationship. Marcus watched as his ordinary study transformed into what appeared to be a high-tech command center, holographic displays sprouting from every surface. "You think?" he managed, just as the first teleport beam began to shimmer in his living room. The teleport beam materialized into three figures that definitely weren't from any Earth cleaning service. Their armor seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, and where their faces should have been, there were only swirling voids of dark energy. Ambassador Naira. The central figure's voice resonated like thunder in a digital storm. "You've led us on quite a chase across the galaxy." Marcus turned to his housekeeper, who now stood with the regal bearing of someone far more accustomed to commanding starships than organizing cutlery. Her domestic servant's attire had somehow transformed into a sleek diplomatic uniform, complete with insignias that pulsed with living light. "The Void Collective," she addressed them coolly, positioning herself between the intruders and Marcus. "Still serving as the hegemony's enforcers, I see. How disappointing." The lead figure's darkness swirled faster. "The documents you stole contain sensitive information about the hegemony's plans for this sector. Return them, and perhaps we'll consider leaving this primitive world intact." "Primitive?" Marcus couldn't help but interject. "Says the group who still thinks threatening entire planets is a valid negotiation strategy." Naira's markings flashed what might have been amusement, but her voice remained diplomatic. "Mr. Reed, while I appreciate your defense of Earth, perhaps we should focus on the fact that my apartment has been invaded by interdimensional enforcers." "Your apartment?" Marcus raised an eyebrow despite the tension. "I'm pretty sure I'm still paying the mortgage." The lead enforcer's void face rippled with impatience. "Enough. Ambassador, the hegemony's patience grows thin. The humans cannot be allowed to develop quantum consciousness technology. Their minds are too chaotic, too unpredictable." "You mean too free," Naira countered, her markings now pulsing in complex patterns that made the air itself hum. "I've lived among them, observed their potential. They're ready for advancement, whether the hegemony approves or not." Marcus watched in fascination as the simples on her skin began to project outward, forming a protective barrier of pure energy around them. "So," he said, trying to process everything, "not just a housekeeper then." "I apologize for the deception, Mr. Reed," Naira replied, her fingers dancing through the air as she manipulated quantum fields with practiced ease. "I am indeed a diplomat, but also a member of the Velaran Science Council. We've been monitoring Earth's development since your grandfather's breakthrough." "The breakthrough that's written in your skin markings," Marcus remembered. "But why hide as a housekeeper?" "Because," she explained while simultaneously maintaining the energy barrier against the enforcer's increasingly aggressive attacks, "your residence contains something unique, a quantum resonance signature matching your grandfather's final experiment. I needed to study it without drawing attention." The lead enforcer laughed, a sound like static in a dead channel. "And yet here you are, exposed and cornered. The hegemony will never allow humans to access quantum consciousness. Their emotional nature makes them too dangerous." "Our emotional nature is exactly why we should have it," Marcus argued, surprising himself with his conviction. "We understand the balance between power and responsibility because we feel the weight of our choices." Naira's markings pulsed with approval. "Precisely why I chose to trust you, Mr. Reed. Your grandfather understood this too. His final experiment wasn't just about quantum entanglement. It was about proving humans were ready for the next step in cosmic evolution." The enforcers launched another assault against Naira's barrier, this time with enough force to shake the entire building. But Marcus barely noticed, distracted by a sudden realization. "The geometric patterns you've been arranging my furniture in, they weren't just about housekeeping efficiency, were they?" "Very good," Naira smiled, even as she reinforced their protection. "I've been gradually activating the quantum resonance matrix your grandfather built into this very apartment. All those late-night reorganizing sessions were actually calibrating the field." So when you said you were optimizing my living space for domestic harmony, I was literally harmonizing the quantum frequency of your home with the universal consciousness grid. She paused, deflecting another energy blast. Though I did also alphabetize your spice rack, I'm nothing if not thorough. The lead enforcer's void face contorted with rage. Enough of this. If we can't contain this breach, we'll have to quarantine the entire system. The hegemony will not risk. They never finished the threat. At that moment, every item Naira had meticulously arranged over the past weeks, from the furniture to the kitchen utensils, began to glow with an inner light. The quantum resonance matrix, hidden in the very structure of Marcus's apartment, had been fully activated. "Mr. Reed," Naira said, her voice carrying a note of urgency, "remember how I said your grandfather's equations were written in my skin? It's time for you to read them. Are you ready to help me rewrite the rules of reality?" Marcus looked around at his apartment-turned-quantum battlefield, at the void-faced enforcers trying to prevent humanity's next evolutionary step, and at his extraordinary housekeeper, who turned out to be so much more. "Well," he said, managing a smile, "you have kept the place impressively clean. It would be rude not to help save the galaxy in return." The symbols on Naira's skin began to flow like liquid starlight, reaching out toward him as the enforcers launched their final desperate assault. The next few moments would determine not just their fate, but the future of human consciousness itself. As Naira's markings began flowing onto Marcus's skin, the sensation was like being immersed in liquid starlight. Each equation, each symbol that transferred between them carried not just information, but memories, emotions, and fragments of universal truth his grandfather had glimpsed decades ago. "Your mind is adapting remarkably well," Naira observed, maintaining their protective barrier while guiding the transfer. "Most humans would find direct quantum consciousness download overwhelming. Maybe all those times you rearranged my furniture in four-dimensional patterns were actually preparing my brain," Marcus managed, trying to process the flood of cosmic knowledge now integrating with his consciousness. "Very sneaky of you. I prefer to think of it as thorough preparation," she replied, deflecting another assault from the increasingly frustrated enforcers. "Though I admit, watching you try to find your coffee maker in quantum superposition was quite entertaining." The lead enforcer's void face churned with dark energy. "This is pointless. Human consciousness cannot possibly handle the complexity of quantum reality without." They stopped mid-sentence as Marcus raised his hand, almost instinctively, and the quantum fields around them shifted in response. The enforcer's next attack didn't just bounce off their barrier. It unraveled mid-air, the energy dispersing into harmless particles of light. "You were saying?" Marcus grinned, feeling the power of his grandfather's equations humming through his transformed consciousness. "Something about humans not being able to handle complexity." Naira's markings pulsed with pride. "The hegemony always underestimates the adaptability of the human mind. Your grandfather understood that consciousness itself is the key to quantum manipulation. Everything else is just advanced mathematics." "Speaking of mathematics," Marcus said, watching in fascination as equations now danced across his own skin in patterns matching Naira's, "I'm starting to understand why you spent so much time cleaning my windows." The quantum resonance matrix required precise calibration points throughout the apartment, she confirmed. "Though your windows really were quite dirty." The lead enforcer's darkness roiled with rage. "The hegemony will never accept this. A quantum-conscious human. The risk is too great." "The risk," Naira countered, her diplomatic training evident in her measured tone, "is in suppressing natural evolution. Humanity's emotional intelligence combined with quantum consciousness could bridge the gap between organic and quantum reality in ways the hegemony never imagined." Marcus felt the truth of her words resonating through their now shared quantum field. Each symbol transferred between them revealed more of the grand design, not just his grandfather's equations, but Naira's careful planning, her years of preparation leading to this moment. "You didn't choose this apartment by accident," he realized. "The agency, the housekeeping cover, All of it was orchestrated to find someone compatible with the consciousness transfer, someone connected to my grandfather's work. The grandson of Earth's pioneering quantum consciousness researcher, living directly above a dormant quantum resonance matrix. Naira's skin shimmered with what might have been embarrassment. Let's just say my application to be your housekeeper was somewhat targeted. And all those times you organized my books by vibrational frequency, testing your subconscious response to quantum manipulation, she admitted, though your filing system really was chaotic. Seriously, who shelves quantum physics next to cookbooks? Their banter was interrupted by a new alarm from Naira's quantum displays. The enforcers had called for reinforcements. Above the apartment, multiple hegemony ships were dropping out of quantum space, their presence distorting the very fabric of reality. Mr. Reed, Naira said urgently, the next few moments are crucial. The quantum consciousness transfer is nearly complete, but the hegemony is preparing to initiate a system-wide quantum lockdown. If they succeed, Earth's consciousness evolution will be suppressed for millennia. Marcus felt the weight of the situation through their shared quantum awareness. What do we need to do? Remember all those meditation techniques I insisted on teaching you while dusting? Her markings pulsed with intense purpose. They weren't just for stress relief. They were preparation for this, a full quantum consciousness awakening. But to succeed, we'll need to synchronize our fields completely. You mean like that time you tried to teach me Velaran quantum yoga in the living room? Similar principle, she smiled, even as the air around them began to crackle with building energy, but with slightly higher stakes. Are you ready to help me rewrite the quantum laws of your entire solar system? Marcus looked at his transformed skin, now bearing the same living constellations as Naira's, felt the incredible power of quantum consciousness humming through his being, and thought about how this all started with a simple housekeeping advertisement. Ready, he confirmed, reaching for her hand as reality itself began to bend around them. But after we save the galaxy, we're going to have a serious discussion about your definition of light housekeeping duties. The universe, Marcus discovered, looked very different when viewed through quantum-enhanced consciousness. Every particle, every wave of energy contained stories, songs, and mathematical truths that made his previous understanding of reality seem like a child's crayon drawing. Focus, Mr. Reed. Naira guided him as they combined their quantum fields, their shared consciousness expanding to encompass the apartment and beyond. The hegemony ships are attempting to establish a quantum suppression field around Earth. You know, Marcus replied, helping her weave complex defense patterns through the fabric of space-time. Given that we're literally merging consciousness to save humanity, you might as well call me Marcus. Her markings pulsed with what felt like affectionate amusement. Very well, Marcus. Now shall we show the hegemony why suppressing human evolution is a terrible idea. Together, they reached out through the quantum resonance matrix, their combined consciousness touching every carefully arranged point in the apartment. Each item Naira had positioned over her weeks of housekeeping now served as a node in a vast quantum network, transforming Marcus's modest home into the epicenter of humanity's next evolutionary leap. The Void Enforcers launched a final desperate attack, their darkness seeking to corrupt the expanding quantum field. But where their entropy met Marcus and Naira's combined consciousness, it transformed into pure creative energy. Impossible. The lead enforcer's void writhed. Human consciousness cannot possibly maintain quantum coherence at this scale. Actually, Marcus corrected, feeling Naira's diplomatic training flowing through their shared awareness. We can. You just never gave us the chance to try. Though I have to admit, having an amazing quantum physics tutor disguised as a housekeeper definitely helped. Naira's consciousness brushed against his with warm approval. The hegemony never understood that true quantum mastery requires both mathematical precision and emotional intelligence. Humanity's greatest strength is its ability to feel deeply while thinking broadly. Above them, the hegemony ships began their quantum suppression sequence. Reality itself shuddered as they attempted to lock down the natural evolution of consciousness across the entire solar system. But they hadn't counted on what a quantum-conscious human-Valorant partnership could achieve. Through their merged awareness, Marcus and Naira reached out to every quantum node they'd established. The furniture arranged in perfect geometric patterns, the books organized by vibrational frequency, even the kitchen utensils aligned with cosmic harmonies, all of it had been preparation for this moment. Ready to rewrite the rules of reality? Naira asked, her consciousness intertwined with his. Wait, Marcus paused, a sudden thought occurring to him even as they held the fabric of space-time in balance. That time you reorganized my sock drawer at 3 in the morning. Was establishing a quantum synchronization point, yes, she admitted. Though your sock matching system really was horrifyingly chaotic. Their shared laughter rippled through the quantum field, and something unexpected happened. The wave of pure joy, carrying the full depth of human emotion, amplified by quantum consciousness, spread outward through their network. Where it touched the hegemony's suppression field, transformation followed. The Void Enforcers were the first to change, their darkness suddenly illuminated from within by points of light like new stars being born. Above, the hegemony ship's attempts at quantum lockdown backfired as the wave of conscious joy transformed their suppression field into an activation network. What's happening? The lead enforcer asked, their void face now sparkling with inner light. Evolution, Naira explained, her diplomatic tone carrying through their quantum link. But not just human evolution, universal evolution. The hegemony feared humanity would destroy the cosmic order, never understanding that emotions like joy, love, and wonder are fundamental forces of reality, just as powerful as gravity or quantum entanglement. Marcus felt the truth of it through their combined consciousness. His grandfather had glimpsed this possibility, that human emotions, when merged with quantum awareness, could transform not just consciousness, but reality itself. Naira and her people had seen it too, which was why they'd worked so hard to protect Earth's development from hegemony interference. The wave of transformation spread outward, touching minds and awakening consciousness across the planet. Humanity's first steps into quantum awareness would be guided not by cold mathematics alone, but by the full spectrum of human experience. As the hegemony ships retreated, their crews forever changed by contact with the consciousness wave, Marcus turned to Naira. In quantum awareness, her true self was even more beautiful, a symphony of mathematics and emotion, duty and caring, strength and grace. So, he said, their consciousness still intimately connected, about your employment contract. Her markings rippled with joy. I believe we've moved rather beyond employer and employee, don't you think? Though I must say, for a primitive human, you've proven to be an exceptional partner. Partner. Marcus tested the word, feeling its rightness echo through their quantum bond. I like that. Though we should probably discuss your tendency to rearrange furniture across multiple dimensions without warning. And perhaps, she countered, her consciousness sharing memories of his more amusing reactions to her housekeeping. We should discuss your habit of keeping quantum physics equations written on pizza box lids. Around them, Earth continued its awakening, countless minds beginning to touch the quantum reality that had always existed just beyond normal perception. The future would bring challenges, but together, they had proven that the combination of human emotion and quantum consciousness could transform even the darkest void into starlight. You know, Marcus said, watching the dawn of a new era through both physical and quantum senses, for a first date, saving the galaxy is pretty impressive. How are we going to top that? Naira's response carried through their quantum link, filled with warmth, humor, and endless possibility. Well, I still haven't organized your quantum garage space yet.